Buy. I want all the lime, clay, sand, stone, and whatever that Lu or is we can buy sent over. Give as many people as he wants. Give him as much money as he wants. We need Wang Chong and the Wang clan to owe us a favor. In the estate of a small clan in the city's east, the clan patriarch of some 40 years was roaring like thunder. What? Risk? Are you worried that the mighty Wang clan won't pay up? Just think about how much money they make from selling off those with steel swords. You can't even buy them now, and you're still worried about them lacking money? In the largest sword shop of the capital, the owner Zhao Jinling was practically frothing at the mouth as he cursed and berated the opposing elders, lunging about like some vicious beast and causing the elders to flee in fear. Go. Mobilize everyone the clan can muster, and get those bastards of Old 3 and Old 4. They spend the entire day doing nothing but lying about, so send them all as well. Don't you know that the Zhou clan in the western part of the city sent 9 of their 10 elders? The only fear is that we'll fall behind. If they can even send their elders, what are we waiting for? The first to move gets to eat meat, but what do those who move last get? Shit! The patriarch of the Huang clan, Huang Sha, had always had a violent temper, and his furious bellows were practically raising the roof of his residence. Everyone fearfully went to carry out his orders. The Zhao clan, the Bai clan, the Guo clan, the Chai clan, and the rest of the storied and ancient clans of the Great Tang began to mobilize their experts. This letter that Wang Chong had sent to Zhao Jingdian from Wuxiang was setting all these clans into motion. When all these great clans worked together, they were like a massive machine, moving with an astonishing energy. All the lime, clay, sand, and stone, as well as the Lu or flooded from every direction to gather in Zhao Jingdian's hands. And a simple order had been enough for Zhao Jingdian to assemble more than 100,000 craftsmen. Not even when he was building his city in Wuxiang had Wang Chong managed to accomplish this feat in such a short time. The capital was a far easier place to work in than the barren and deserted Wuxiang. 3 days later, Zhao Jingdian stood at the beginning of the road leading from the capital to the western regions, dressed in a ceremonial robe, with countless experts from the great clans gathered at his side. The plan had already begun, and everyone was hoping to see what exactly this cement road was. Get ready, Zhao Jingdian solemnly said. With this order, several hundred craftsmen assembled on the sides of the road and began to go through their practiced routine. First, they put in the lime, clay, and Lu or, then they put in the sand and stone, and finally they put in the appropriate amount of water to begin mixing. Under countless interested gazes, these craftsmen poured a thick layer of the slurry onto the road, then added a layer of rocks and gravel, placed down thick iron bars wrapped together with metal wire, and finally poured a final layer of the slurry. When all this was over, a black road of slurry about 10 inches tall had appeared before them. That's it. A descendant of the capital's Zhang clan looked at this road in astonishment. He had heard endless talk about this cement road, and there had been all sorts of rumors about it. Some people said that it would spit fire at night, and others said that it was outfitted with wheels and could move. There were even rumors that these roads had gold and silver that would make them twinkle at night. But no one had expected that this cement road that had stimulated so much talk amongst the great clans and taken so much time and energy to make would be so ordinary. It was just some black slurry with 2 iron bars in between. It appeared that the anticipation and the efforts of the great clans had been in vain. The final product truly left them deeply disappointed. Haha, of course it's not over. If any of you wish to withdraw, there is still time. Our young master has said long ago that we won't stop anyone who wants to withdraw. All the money you have invested up to now will be returned in full, Zhao Jingdian said with a chuckle. In an instant, everyone fell silent. The discontent clan experts seemed to have their mouths sewn shut. So tightly pursed their mouths were, not a single one willing to say a word. Their money invested was essentially a joke. Whether it was the lime, clay, Lu, or the sand and stone, these were all the cheapest of materials, and even if one multiplied their total costs in manpower and resources by 10, it would still count as a minor expense. To spend this trifling sum to build a relationship with the Wang clan was the most cost-effective investment in the world. As for this slurry, even if it was made of dirt and was completely useless, these clans and their deep resources truly didn't care. They had basically just paid an admission fee. Moreover, although they hadn't felt it at the start, once more and more clans began to participate, this matter had become an important existence that no clan could ignore. The reason they had begun to invest was no longer important. Anyone who backed out at a time like this would become the target of the rest, excluded from the circles of society. While bearable in the short term, a long-term exile from the social circles of the great clans was a death sentence. In contrast, if all the clans allied together, each clan would be able to enjoy a part of the profits in the future. Thus, even though the Zhao clan and the Bai clan knew that Wang Chong was using their money to repair roads, they had still decided to participate. The other clans looked up to the Zhao clan and the Bai clan, and these two clans could borrow the strength of these small clans to grow, at the same time increasing their prestige and influence. Lord Zhao, why so serious? I was just joking. Right. It was just a small remark. We couldn't possibly actually back out. The young Marquis's plans are without flaw. He must have a reason for every decision he makes. How could we doubt Lord Marquis? Lord Zhao, please cool your temper. I misspoke. I'll compensate. For our part of the cement road, we'll double our investment. The embarrassed crowd was quick to apologize. Some of those who had lost control of their mouths the fastest couldn't help but give themselves a mental slap to the mouth. For a moment of pleasure, they had ended up provoking Lord Zhao. Since you misspoke, I'll act as if I never heard it. Zhao Jingdian gave a faint smile and placed the matter aside. Wang Chong had said long ago that because too many clans were being assembled for this operation, they would be very hard to manage, and that someone with his honest personality would find them difficult to restrain, so he had hoped that Zhao Jingdian would be a little tougher. As things stood, the effects seemed rather good. Elder Chan, begin. Zhao Jingdian turned his head to the 50-some-year-old veteran foreman and made a gesture with his hand. A moment later, a layer of lime was sprinkled over the new, slurry road, quickly absorbing the moisture. This was a method the masons had discovered. In normal circumstances, this slurry would need several hours to harden. By spreading this layer of lime, they could absorb the water and quicken the process. After all, with so many great clans present, they couldn't just have them sit around and do nothing for so long. It's enough. As the lime rapidly moistened, Zhao Jingdian waved his hand and had the workers stop adding lime. After this, Zhao Jingdian simply stood in front of the crowd, his gaze on the black slurry road, his expression calm and unhurried. Zhao Jingdian said nothing, so everyone didn't dare to say a word. With the earlier precedent, they had all realized that this young Lord Zhao was not as easy to deal with as he seemed. Even with the lime assisting in the absorption of moisture, the slurry road dried slowly. Around an hour later, the slurry finally began to whiten as it slowly hardened. It's done. Zhao Jingdian gazed at the road of fully hardened slurry, a faint smile on his lips. Everyone, after using an enormous amount of manpower, wealth, and resources, to gather this massive amount of lime, clay, glue, or sand, and stone, we have produced this cement road. As he gazed at the gray-white road, Zhao Jingdian felt an exultant feeling of accomplishment. After all this time, the Marquis's first cement road had finally appeared. Buzz. Meanwhile, Zhao Jingdian's words had caused the crowd to buzz with chatter, everyone engaged in hushed conversation. Different from what Zhao Jingdian expected, the gazes aimed at the gray-white road were still doubtful. Lord Zhao, forgive me if I misspeak. A grizzled clan elder of 50 or 60 slowly walked out of the crowd. This slurry road. No, this cement road. Even though this old man has traveled the world and seen many things, he still does not understand it. Can my lord explain the advantages of this cement road? In addition, if this is just for repairing roads, wouldn't just hiring a few peasants and laborers to lay down some cobblestones and gravel achieve the same effect for less trouble? Zhao Jingdian turned to look at this elder and recognized him as Elder Xie Gufeng of the Xie clan, a somewhat influential figure in high society. As expected, Xie Gufeng's words immediately set off a chain reaction, causing countless people to begin to chatter to each other. Although they didn't dare to speak too loudly, as Zhao Jingdian looked over them, quite a few people lowered their heads. It was clear that they found Xie Gufeng's words to be reasonable. Ah, Elder Xie has asked an excellent question. Come, bring that over. Zhao Jingdian grinned and waved his hand. Quickly, a particularly enormous carriage pulled along by two large horses began to approach. Unlike other carriages, this one had no roof. It was simply an open-topped container that was several times larger than a normal carriage. Such large containers were rarely used. Not only that, upon careful examination, the crowd realized that the wood used to make this carriage was still unpainted, which meant that this carriage had only recently been constructed. Rumble. As the crowd looked on in astonishment, this massive carriage mounted the road and came to a stop. Zhao Jingdian suddenly turned his head and asked, Elder Xie, I would like to ask you, how much weight can an ordinary carriage bear? This, normally 700 to 800 jin, with 1200 jin being the maximum. Although Xie Gufeng didn't know why this question was being asked, he still gave his honest reply. Why 1200 jin? Zhao Jingdian asked with a smile. This is quite simple. Once it's too heavy, 2 horses won't be enough to pull the carriage. One might need 3, 4, or even 5 horses, but this is a whole new problem. Not just any horse can work with 4 other horses to pull a carriage, and no normal driver can control them. Moreover, one also has to consider the ability for the surface of the road to bear the weight. If it's too heavy, the wheels will sink into the earth and will either get stuck or greatly hinder any movement. In long journeys, this will lead to a substantial delay that goes against the purpose of using carriages in the first place. Xie Gufeng explained. The answers to Zhao Jingdian's questions were basically common sense. Any member of a great clan who had worked with carriages a little understood these things. A merchant wouldn't get up early if they didn't stand to make a profit, and if they could transport more on carriages, why wouldn't they? Xie Gufeng paused a moment before adding, in addition, 1200 jin added to the weight of the carriage itself is already very heavy, around 17 or 1800 jin, maybe even 2000. This weight is already quite frightening. Haha, Elder Xie, I understand. Zhao Jingdian began to point at the Wang clan guards. You, all of you, get on the carriage. With a sweep of his hand, Zhao Jingdian ordered 10 some agile warriors to get onto the carriage. This strange action immediately drew the focus of the crowd, the clan experts avidly watching this scene. Although they didn't know what Zhao Jingdian was doing, all of them understood that he must have a particular purpose behind his actions. Elder Xie, this should be about 1200 jin, right? Zhao Jingdian asked with a smile. Yes, indeed. Xie Gufeng's eyes went wide. All of these guards were tall and muscular, and 10 some of them altogether was far more than 1200. It was at least 1700 jin. Zhao Jingdian smiled and picked out another batch of Wang clan guards. You, all of you go up as well. Yes, my lord. All the guards chuckled as they climbed onto the carriage with practiced movements. There were now 20 some Wang clan guards in the carriage compartment, all of them squeezed together. It was at this time that the rest of the crowd finally understood why Zhao Jingdian had brought such a large container. Lord Zhao. Xie Gufeng could no longer hold back his surprise. 20 some bulky men packed together. Such a method of transportation had never been tried before. After all, this was a weight of 2,000 to 3,000 jin. You. All of you go up as well. Zhao Jingdian appeared to think that this still wasn't enough weight, ordering yet another batch of chuckling guards onto the carriage. Some of them stood on the edge of the carriage while others hung from the protruding sides. In short, the entire carriage was completely packed. Everyone was flabbergasted by this sight. There were now 30 people on this one carriage, when an ordinary carriage would usually hold only 3 or 4 people. This was 10 times the normal weight, an absolutely absurd number. Xie Gufeng suddenly took a few steps forward and said, My lord, please forgive me if I misspeak. If you put so many people on board, 2 horses will find it very difficult to pull the carriage. Zhao Jingdian was putting too many people on this carriage, and even though Xie Gufeng sensed that he was trying to prove something, this method was clearly implausible. Haha. We can only know if it will move once we try. Zhao Jingdian gave a careless laugh. Elder Liang, begin. Zhao Jingdian gestured to the old driver on the carriage. Hiya! A whip snapped in the air before cracking onto the horses. Nay! The carriage began to roll, its wheels rumbling as the two horses pulled the carriage holding 30 people forward. At the start, it was obvious that the horses were using a great deal of energy to pull the carriage forward at a very slow speed. But then they began to speed up, the carriage and its load of 30 people zooming forward. Bang! At this sight, the crowd practically exploded in shock. Their unfocused eyes immediately went wide. 30 people. How? It's actually moving, and so fast. What's going on here? A carriage with 30 people should be practically immovable. How did he do it? How could a carriage with so many people be moving? A carriage with more than 10 people shouldn't be possible to move. At that weight, it would sink deep into the road. How could it be moving so quickly? This sight completely overturned their understanding of carriage weight. These descendants of the great clans usually left the matter of shipping goods on carriages to their subordinates and rarely bothered themselves with such things. But this did not mean that they couldn't understand the significance of this event. If a carriage could hold 10 times more, the clans could make 10 times more with each trip. They might not have cared about the minor details of carriage transportation, but they certainly cared about the massive profits this entailed. And the scene Zhao Jingdian was directing was far from over. Hiya! With a shout, the carriage driver Liang Bo snapped his whip. One of the carriage shafts suddenly separated, and the newly freed horse let out a neigh as it charged along the cement road. And then, the stunned crowd watched as the remaining horse continued to pull the carriage with 30 Wang clan guards all by itself. How? What horse could have such strength? This is too much. I've never seen such a scene in my entire life. Does this still count as a horse? How did they pull this off? It's inconceivable. No, this isn't because of the horse. It must be the carriage. No, it's not the carriage. It's that slurry road or whatever. No, it's because of the horse. The crowd began to quarrel amongst themselves in consternation over this never-before-seen sight. As Zhao Jingdian listened to these arguments, a smile crept onto his lips. These arguments meant that his painstaking plans had not been for nothing, meant that the Marquis's plans were right on track. Brie. In the distance, the carriage had traveled 20-some zhang before finally coming to a stop. Zhao Jingdian made a gesture, and the 30 Wang clan guards chuckled once more as they jumped down from the carriage and gathered around Zhao Jingdian. Honored guests, you have all seen it. This is the cement road that Lord Marquis spoke of. As long as we can build these kinds of roads, our carriages can hold greater weights and transport more goods, producing more profits while saving on manpower and resources. Zhao Jingdian scanned the crowd, his eyes shining with wisdom and confidence. Moreover, all of you should have seen that this road is extremely smooth and level. Although there were 30 people on the carriage, it did not shake once. Honored guests, all of you are from the great clans, with large businesses and great wealth. There are inevitably times when you are required to travel for negotiations. If you traveled along this sort of road, at least everyone would travel with much less jostling and shaking. In an instant, the crowd fell silent. The majority of the people growing up in great clans didn't work hard or manual labor, and what they craved the most was comfort. Zhao Jingdian's words were even more alluring to them than the fact that that one horse could pull a carriage carrying 30 men. If Wang Chong really did create this network of roads, everyone present could reap the benefits. With regards to this slurry, no, this cement road, we don't oppose investing any money. But once we've invested all this manpower, wealth, and resources, what will we do once other people start taking advantage of these roads? Won't we have just spent money and effort so that other people can enjoy them for free? A scion of 27 or 28 walked out of the crowd, throwing up his arms in the air as he spoke, many concerns in his eyes. That's right. If we put out the money but then others enjoy the results, won't we essentially have donated our money? Another clan expert walked out and voiced his agreement. The other clan experts, including those from the Zhao clan and the Bai clan, began to look at Zhao Jingdian. Although they didn't add their opinions, their eyes clearly communicated that they felt the same. These people, It's exactly as young master predicted. As Zhao Jingdian looked around, he couldn't help but mentally sigh, his admiration for Wang Chong swelling. Although Wang Chong was far away in Wuxiang, he had predicted everything that had happened and was about to happen. No one would get up in the morning unless they stood to benefit from it, and the great clans would never do something that they didn't stand to gain from, much less donate their money. If they could not be persuaded, perhaps they might still help out with building the new roads, but the aid would be drastically reduced. If handled improperly, this matter would have a massive effect on the Marquis's future plans, even result in a failure at Tala's. Thankfully, young master already made plans. Zhao Jingdian held his hands behind his back, his expression calm and unpanicked. Honored guests. Zhao Jingdian gave a faint smile as he confidently spoke. Everyone be at ease. Such a thing will never take place. Before leaving, young master said that after building these cement roads, we only need to set up checkpoints on the roads. If merchants want to pass through, they would need to pay a fee. Our Great Tang is currently the wealthiest country in the world, at the height of its prosperity. Just who can count all the merchants within its borders, and how many people would pass through those checkpoints every day? These small fees will build up, many drops making an ocean, and each day will result in a massive sum. Thus, honored guests' worries about others taking advantage of your hard work, plucking the fruit of the trees you planted, simply will not occur. In the world that Wang Chong had come from, building cement roads was an extremely expensive and resource-intensive process, so it was customary to pay tolls to use them. This was a matter that everyone could basically accept. In that other world, this was absolutely normal, but the people of the Great Tang clearly did not have such a concept. As expected, Zhao Jingdian's words immediately caused the eyes of these representatives of the great clans to shine, and their attitudes completely reversed. An excellent idea, but would they be willing to pay this fee? An expert from a great clan asked. Haha. If they can transport more in a shorter time and with less jostling, why wouldn't they pay the fee? Zhao Jingdian chuckled. He didn't even need to think back to Wang Chong's advice to understand how to address the question. Merchants worked in the pursuit of profit, and if they stood to make more profit, they would naturally pay the money, so these things the great clans worried about would never happen. This was a situation where both sides won. In addition, I don't know if any of you have noticed, as Zhao Jingdian spoke, he extended his right hand, receiving a large iron hammer from a guard at his side. He strode forward, and as the crowd looked on in shock, he smashed the hammer against the gray-white cement. Rumble. Shards flew everywhere, and yet Zhao Jingdian's powerful blow, carrying all the strength he could muster, was only able to create a small hole in the cement road. All of the clan experts were flabbergasted. Let me try. A scar-faced clan expert came forward and took the hammer from Zhao Jingdian. Raising it high into the air, he smashed it down. Boom! This mighty strike again left only another small hole on the cement road, with none of that massive explosion that the crowd had imagined. Is this really made from that slurry? How could lime and clay be so hard? The scar-faced expert was momentarily dumbfounded. And it wasn't just him. The crowd had been so focused on the carriage, horse, and the 30 Wang clan guards on the carriage that they only began to examine the road when Zhao Jingdian smashed at it with the hammer. Haha! Come, take the hammers out. Everyone can try. Noticing the change in the crowd, Zhao Jingdian immediately gave the order, and tensome guards carrying bundles of hammers emerged. Since Zhao Jingdian had invited them, the crowd were quick to try. I don't believe that something made of lime and clay can be this hard. The clan experts took the hammers, walked up to the cement road, and began to wildly flail at it. Bang bang bang. Shards splintered off the newly constructed cement road as the hammers whacked away, rapidly damaging it. The Wang clan experts wanted to stop them, but Zhao Jingdian called them back. It's fine. Let them smash as long as they want. Zhao Jingdian had a calm expression, and his voice exuded a persuasive power. After spending a long time with Wang Chong, he had unwittingly begun to learn a little of that self-confidence. Zhao Jingdian and all the Wang clan guards stood to the side, silently watching the clan experts hammer away at the cement road. An hour later, more and more clan experts had joined in, and these some people working together had finally managed to utterly destroy the cement road. But it was this result that the crowd found even more shocking. If they had been unable to destroy this road, they would subconsciously believe that there was something else strange about this cement road. However, even though it had taken a great deal of time and energy, they had still managed to completely destroy it. This meant that this toughness was all due to that cement. Impossible, impossible. To use lime, clay, and whatever that loo or is to create something that's as tough as rock. No, this is even tougher than rock. This is absurd. This is man-made rock. The young Marquis has a method of making artificial rocks. Quickly inform the clan. Our Lu clan has chosen the right person to follow. Just how was this done? Give me another hammer. I need to try again. Such a hard road isn't possible. Ha ha ha. I've dug up a treasure. It's no wonder the young Marquis is the son of Heaven's disciple, the future 8th great general of the Great Tang. No matter what he does, our Chun clan can't go wrong as long as we throw our full support behind him. In a flash, the clan experts finally understood the secret of this road. It wasn't the horse or carriage, but the fact that this road was tough enough to endure an unimaginable weight. This was the true secret. All their worries vanished in a puff of smoke. Flap flap, the situation had entirely changed. Right in front of Zhao Jingdian, the many clan experts were releasing their respective carrier pigeons to inform their clans, not caring about who was watching. This was an incredibly important discovery. The uses for this man-made rock were not merely restricted to making roads. Haha! Success! Lord Marquis is truly a flawless planner. Everything was as he predicted. We can now begin wholesale construction of the roads. Zhao Jingdian mentally gave a sigh of relief. The Marquis' cement road plan required a great deal of time, manpower, and resources. It wasn't something that the Wang clan, the Zhao clan, and the Bai clan could sustain alone. All the great clans of the capital needed to participate. With this goal met, everything was possible. Zhao Jingdian glanced at the Wang clan guard next to him and whispered, "Write a letter for me to Lord Marquis telling him that he can begin his next plan." The guard understood and nodded. Bang! As night fell, the first cement road of the Great Tang was foreordained to be inscribed in the history books. Such a thing had never appeared in the history of the Central Plains. A landmark achievement that was certain to have enormous uses. Countless notable clans of all sizes were willing to invest their resources into this venture. And Wang Chong was not being stingy, directly opening up the future tolls to be paid for using the cement road to all these clans. In addition, Wang Chong had established a special clan road alliance and drawn up a contract that established that all the earnings would be shared and the recipe for the cement made available to all the signees. The alliance was responsible for overseeing the cement recipe. Could not be allowed to leak outside the Central Plains. Wang Chong's generosity received an enthusiastic response from the alliance. Upon obtaining the recipe, the clans of the alliance began to throw themselves into the venture. Lime, clay, sand, stone, aluminum, and a vast amount of iron bars, millions of tons of material were invested into building a road from the capital to the western regions. And the advantage of bringing in all these clans quickly became evident. On the first day, 80,000 laborers were involved in the construction. On the second, this had increased to 108,000. On the third day, it was 360,000. In the end, 700,000 to 800,000 workers had congregated around the Silk Road. The gray-white cement roads were built up at astonishing speeds along the Silk Road. Such were the results that came from Wang Chong opening up the cement road to the great clans. 3 feet of ice does not form from a single day of chill. One person alone cannot change a massive empire. Only the strength of an entire state can do so. When all the great clans of the empire gather together, they are like tens of thousands of logs tied together, tough and unbendable. This is the roar of a slumbering empire. Congratulations to User for completing Empire's Fury. The second phase of the mission, Road of Awakening, has been unlocked. User has been rewarded 800 points of destiny energy, and as more roads are built, User will continue to be rewarded. Congratulations to user. 30 additional points have been rewarded. Congratulations to user. 40 additional points have been rewarded. Congratulations to user. 37 additional points have been rewarded. In the distant Wuxiang, Wang Chong stood on the walls as the Stone of Destiny unleashed a waterfall of messages in his mind. In this short period of time, he had been rewarded with more than 1,000 points of destiny energy, a number that was still continuing to climb. Zhao Jingdian, you can finally hold your own. With him handling the cement road, I don't need to worry about it. Wang Chong glanced at the letter from Zhao Jingdian and then snapped his fingers, instantly pulverizing the paper into countless shreds that drifted down from the tower. Chang Sanyuan, write a letter for me to Zhao Jingdian. Tell him that I already know about the matter regarding the cement recipe, and that he doesn't need to worry, as I already have everything planned out. Yes, your subordinate will do so. Chang Sanyuan quickly took off. What is lost at sunrise can be regained at sunset, and to gain there must be losses. If I want to build a cement road to the western regions as quickly as possible and complete it before the Battle of Talas, I need the help of the great clans. As for the cement recipe, it was always rather simple. If any great clan wanted to get it, I wouldn't have been able to keep it secret for long, so I might as well just offer it to everyone. Now that they're all in the same boat, they'll do their utmost to safeguard the secret and keep it from being leaked as long as possible. As the winds buffeted his face, Wang Chong looked over the walls, a wise and profound light in his eyes. With the cement road project on the right track and Zhao Jingdian overseeing it, Wang Chong could place his focus on other matters. Let's take care of that matter next. With this thought, Wang Chong quickly turned to another subordinate. Chen Bin, tell Xianxia that Fuming Lingcha is probably going to move soon, so he needs to keep an even closer watch. I need to know everything that's going on. Not a single gap can be permitted. Your subordinate understands and will go. Chen Bin immediately began to descend the walls. During this period, everyone at Wang Chong's side felt a tension in the air, and when they heard from Qixi that Fuming Lingcha had been commended by the imperial court, they were all endlessly indignant. And yet, they could sense another undercurrent flowing from Wang Chong. The people of the Qixi Protectorate had come to show off quite a few times, and all of them had managed to swallow their anger each time. Although the Qixi Protectorate seemed to have completely suppressed them, all of them knew that Fuming Lingcha wouldn't be able to remain arrogant for very much longer. Since the Marquis had said that he was going to make Fuming Lingcha leave Qixi, they knew it would be done, and it would be soon. Hiya! A trail of dust passed through the city gates as Chen Bin swiftly made his way to Qixi. Write a letter to Old Eagle in the capital, Wang Chong indifferently said. Have him keep a close watch on the fourth prince. Any movement has to be reported to me as quickly as possible. There seemed to be no one behind him, yet a person replied from the shadows. This subordinate will deliver this order. The figure quickly vanished. It was now very quiet on the walls, with Wang Chong left all alone. Now that the initial phase of construction had finished, the city of steel was much quieter. This was a period of rest and recuperation. Wang Chong gazed into the distance, where the overcast heavens met with the earth. Everything was quiet and still, and yet Wang Chong could feel that a massive storm was sweeping toward him from the capital. The storm had already stirred, and Wang Chong knew that if he wanted to topple Fuming Lingcha, this would be his last chance. However, Fuming Lingcha was a wily fox. Whether it was letting Dian Mangban through his defenses, borrowing the Tibetans to try and kill Wang Chong, or the final act of stealing credit for himself, Fuming Lingcha had always planned things in such a way that he could always escape almost unscathed. It was no easy task to find any incriminating evidence about him. Most importantly, Wang Chong could not attract any attention from Fuming Lingcha during this entire process. Several hundred li away, in the Qixi Protectorate, creak. There was a creak as the back door of the headquarters was pushed open. An exhausted old woman carrying a vegetable basket walked out. Her steps were tottering, and each one was taken with extreme care, seeming to sap her of her strength. Thwump! The old lady walked to the corner of the wall and heaved, dumping out the rotten vegetable leaves in the basket. The rotten vegetables had piled up here, exuding an awful stench. Suddenly, The back door was kicked open with a bang, and a savage-faced guard dressed in the armor of the Qixi Protectorate strode out. His fierce gaze aimed at the old woman. "Repulsive old hag, Lord Protector General has ordered that when going out to buy ingredients, you must return before the Wu period 1 is over. In addition, if you make some food, I'll spare you from a round of whipping next time. Serve me some dessert. This old woman understands." The old woman trembled and twitched. Her face panicked as she hurriedly bowed, her white-haired head almost touching the ground. The sight of that old and frail body trembling in fear was truly pitiful to behold. "Humph, useless hag. If not for the fact that you've served Lord Protector General for 10-some years, I would have killed you ages ago." At the back door, the savage-faced guard cursed some more, giving the door a fierce kick and making it clang against the wall before finally leaving. For the briefest of moments, a look of resentment could be seen in the old woman's eyes, but this was quickly buried deep down. As she glanced at the gruesome red lash wounds peeking out from under her sleeves, she gave a long and resigned sigh and began to hobble away. As she left the Qixi Protectorate headquarters and made a turn, she suddenly heard a soft voice calling out to her. "Grandma, Grandma, over here, over here." The old woman shivered as a wary look appeared in her eyes. Scanning the area, she saw that it was a lad of 18 or 19 with delicate features, standing in a corner, and she immediately relaxed. "Little Sue, it's you. Didn't I tell you that you didn't need to go to such trouble? I can go and buy them myself." The old woman hobbled over, her expression warm and gentle as she looked at the boy. He was a peddler, and when she had collapsed in the marketplace once after being whipped in the headquarters, he had rescued her. From that moment, she had formed a relationship with this child called Little Sue. Moreover, Little Sue knew of how she was being treated in the headquarters, so he would always buy the food and deliver it to her. As a person working for the Protectorate, she had many apprehensions and didn't like interacting with strangers. But for some reason, she felt naturally close to this Little Sue, regarding him as she would her own grandson. "Grandma, did they hit you again?" Little Sue was deeply concerned to see the old woman hobble so. "I'm used to it. When Lord Protector General is frustrated by the imperial court, he gets irritated. That's how it was 10-some years ago, so I treat it as a normal thing now," the old woman said. "But Grandma is already so old. How much longer can Grandma stand being whipped like this?" Little Sue found it difficult to accept the old woman's situation. But what can I do? Where can this old lady go except the Protectorate? And besides, the Protectorate is different from other places. Although I get whipped, there are always good medicines I can rub over my wounds," the old woman said with a bitter smile. Outsiders saw the people working in the Protectorate enjoy endless glory, honor, and wealth, but none of them knew of the suffering she endured. The old woman knew what outsiders might think, so she rarely revealed her true thoughts. Only in front of this Little Sue did she show her true self. "Grandma, relax. One day I'll save you," Little Sue said firmly to the old woman. "Ha. Just you saying that is enough to make this grandma happy." The old woman paused a moment before chuckling. This was the majestic Qixi Protector General, an imperial great general. A mere child asking for her to be let go would do nothing at all. These were just idle thoughts, a careless comment. After taking the small cart of foodstuffs from Little Sue, the old woman began to hobble back to the Protectorate headquarters. The rules of the Protectorate were very strict. If she did not return on time, she would face yet another round of punishment. As he watched the old woman totter away, Little Sue couldn't help but sigh, a hint of pity in his eyes. "Grandma, be at ease. I'll definitely fulfill my promise. Once this is over, I'll take you away from here." Little Sue spoke confidently to himself. After a while, he straightened himself and left, headed elsewhere. Flap, flap. Several moments later, one of those rock eagles commonplace in the western regions soared into the sky. "Lord Marquis, we've received Xianxia's letter. He has already gotten in touch with the target. All of the Qixi Protectorate headquarters is under tight observation." As a rock eagle took flight once more, a Wuxiang scout ascended the walls and stopped in front of Wang Chong. His body bowed as he handed over the letter with both hands. I see. Wang Chong continued to gaze at the distant Qixi Desert as he extended his right hand and took the letter. He only glanced at it before putting it away. Everything was on track. Fuming Lingcha had always been a very cautious man, outwardly boorish but inwardly meticulous. He seemed to be crude and rough in his conduct, but his plans rarely had any flaws to exploit. Thus, even Wang Chong didn't have many practical methods of moving him aside. He was an imperial great general with incredibly high status, authority, influence, and seniority. Transferring him away was definitely not an easy task, not even for the son of heaven's disciple, not even with King Song's assistance. Unfortunately, although Fuming Lingcha was an extremely experienced person, he suffered from a terrible affliction, a violent temper. He had a tendency to physically abuse his subordinates, which was one of the reasons Wang Chong had arranged for Xianxia to get in touch with that old cooking woman who made food for the generals of the Qixi Protectorate. Very few people knew this woman existed, and the Qixi Protectorate had always kept a tight lid on this secret. But Wang Chong knew about her. In that future incident, this old cook would play a critical role. When Fuming Lingcha became swept up in that matter, the old woman would be the only one in the Qixi Protectorate who dared to stand up and criticize Fuming Lingcha. This event had left a deep mark on Wang Chong's mind, so he had arranged for Xianxia to interact with her. The scout hesitated a moment before finally speaking. In addition, Xianxia had a request in his letter. He hopes that once this matter is over, Lord Marquis can rescue that old woman from the Qixi Protectorate and give her a happy retirement. Okay. Wang Chong didn't even need to think to agree. Even if Xianxia had said nothing, he had still prepared to arrange a peaceful retirement for the old woman. Otherwise, he would find it impossible to stay in Qixi with a peaceful mind. Thank you, Lord Marquis. The scout was elated at this response. Wang Chong only smiled. Although it hadn't been long since Xianxia's arrival at Wuxiang, he was quite the socializer, becoming friends with many of the soldiers in the army. Even these scouts were willing to speak up on his behalf. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye 3 days had passed. In the city of Steel there were thousands of things to do. Running a fief wasn't just about marking out a piece of land and building a city. If Wang Chong wanted to realize his designs on this place, he had many tasks ahead of him. At dawn, Wang Chong was reviewing documents in his residence within the city when he was suddenly interrupted by hurried steps. Lord Marquis, Xianxia has sent news that there's signs of activity in the Qixi Protectorate headquarters. The guard's message was concise, and Wang Chong instantly stood up from his desk. Bang! Almost a moment later, another guard rushed in with a blast of wind. Lord Marquis, Lord Su has sent word that people from Qixi Protectorate have left the area, the second guard declared. These two messages were like a whirlwind, sweeping up the entire city of Steel, causing the air in this newly established fief to grow tense. In this solemn air, all the forces at Wang Chong's side began to mobilize. The incident had begun last night. In Fuming Lingcha's residence, the old woman responsible for making everyone's food realized that several kinds of food had not been ordered this time. The old woman had served Fuming Lingcha for 10 years and was familiar with the likes of all his subordinates. The people at Fuming Lingcha's side all had extremely strange tastes that were very difficult to satisfy. All of them had a liking for some extremely unusual dish that they wanted to eat at every meal. After so many years, only this old woman could cook food that could satisfy their taste buds. Thus, even though she was already old and graying, Fuming Lingcha still kept her around. Fuming Lingcha was very cautious, and he would never let others know of or interfere in matters he considered truly important. As a result, even though the old woman had served him for 10 years, she remained unaware of any critical secrets. But no matter how careful Fuming Lingcha was, he couldn't go without his 3 meals a day. With just a glance at the order, the old woman could tell what foods there were extra of and which foods were missing, allowing her to see which of Fuming Lingcha's subordinates were with him and which weren't. But this matter could only serve as a clue, not solid evidence. So Xianxia had spent the better part of the night confirming the facts. In the morning, when he was finally sure, he immediately reported the matter to Wang Chong. How many people are missing from Fuming Lingcha's residence? Wang Chong asked, his brow tightly creased. 5. At least 5 because 5 kinds of food were missing. But this is only the minimum because we can't guarantee that some people wouldn't leave during a meal. In short, this matter is very unusual. That the food for 5 people would suddenly go missing definitely isn't normal, Xianxia sternly said. After confirming the matter and sending a letter by bird, Xianxia had begun his return journey, finally arriving at the City of Steel not too long ago. The young Marquis never did anything without reason. One could see that from the complete consumption of his fortune on building strange steel walls before the War of the Southwest had even begun, or even in his sudden excursion with his army to Longxi, taking it along a secret path to destroy the major training camp of Zhangzheng. Anyone who spent long enough with the young Marquis would gradually get used to his style of doing things. Although Wang Chong had not made his intentions clear, even the slowest of people could see that a matter involving Protector General Fuming Lingcha was no laughing matter. The slightest lack of caution could trigger cataclysmic changes, perhaps even altering the entire structure of the empire. And the Marquis could use his influence to push this matter to the limit. Knowing all this, Xianxia had immediately begun to ride back as soon as he could to personally report to Wang Chong. Su Kai, how many people could you confirm? Were there any oversights? Wang Chong's grave eyes turned to Su Kai. Besides Xianxia, Su Kai had also noticed that something strange was going on. Once Wang Chong was made aware, he had decided to summon Su Kai as well. Lord Marquis, according to your orders, we used thousandly fragrance to track the trusted subordinates at Fuming Lingcha's side. As soon as any of them get a certain distance from Qixi, we'll immediately know. Su Kai was speaking of a special sort of perfume used by people in the underworld to track targets. The person who wanted to use the thousandly fragrance would first implant a soft scent on their target, and then use a well-trained mastiff to smell the scent. At a certain distance, the fragrance would begin to fade, and the mastiff would begin to madly bark, a complete transformation from its usual quiet and gentle self. Su Kai knew nothing about these methods, and it was Old Eagle that had suggested it. Wang Chong had then passed on this task to Yang Hongchong in the western regions. The Yang clan had operated in the western regions for many years and knew people from all walks of life. It took only about a day for Yang Hongchong to send over the mastiffs and thousandly fragrance that Wang Chong required. I've already confirmed that at least 7 mastiffs began to madly bark at once. At least 7 people have taken their leave of Qixi, Su Kai said. The atmosphere in the room was extremely solemn, and Wang Chong silently furrowed his brow in thought, everyone else not even daring to breathe too loudly. All of them could sense the tension in Wang Chong's body. It was clear as day that this matter was exceptionally serious. 5, 7, Fuming Lingcha, just what are you up to? Just what is your real goal? Or is it that you've already noticed something? Wang Chong raised his head, and he unwittingly began to tap the middle and index fingers of his right hand against his palm as countless thoughts ran through his mind. If everything proceeded as expected, the infamous Shuiyang Palace incident that would make all of society quake was about to take place. Fuming Lingcha, Qixi Protector General, would end being swept into the War of the Princes within the capital, a massive taboo for the great generals of the border. In every dynasty, this had always been a taboo that would draw severe reproach and criticism from both the sovereign and the ministers of court. The number of great generals who had been stripped of their ranks by breaching this taboo was uncountable. However, even though this incident shook the world and made Fuming Lingcha the target of a barrage of criticism, the lack of incriminating evidence allowed him to barely avoid disaster. Coupled with all his past achievements, the sage emperor ultimately decided to strip him of his noble title but leave him as Protector General, noting that he would retain his position until further discussion. If Wang Chong wanted to deal with Fuming Lingcha, this was the last chance. But first, he had to find that trusted aide who Fuming Lingcha had dispatched, find that expression of fealty on him that Fuming Lingcha was delivering to that prince. Only this way could he deal Fuming Lingcha a serious blow. When the Shuiyang Palace incident was riling the palace, dragging in many border generals and angering the sage emperor, the lack of this expression of fealty had ultimately spared Fuming Lingcha from being charged with the fatal crime. After that incident, Fuming Lingcha became even more cautious, acting with more prudence than ever before. He left behind no clues and no weaknesses to exploit. If this incident played out in exactly the same way as it did before, it would mean that all of Wang Chong's efforts would be for nothing. The battle at the Triangular Gap would be meaningless, and the entire Qixi Protectorate would remain in the grip of Fuming Lingcha. Moreover, Wang Chong's plans for the western regions would be impeded at every turn, his preparations strangled in the cradle. Crucially, Fuming Lingcha and Anqi Protector General Gao Xianji had never had a good relationship. As long as Fuming Lingcha remained in his position, the Great Tang would once more suffer a bitter defeat at Talas and lose control over the western regions, thus heralding an era of internal discord. Wang Chong could not allow this to happen. Fuming Lingcha is a who, and an extremely ambitious one at that. This was clear in the regional commander's incident, and it was also obvious when he stole the credit for the Triangular Gap. This is all for the sake of authority and merit. Fuming Lingcha wants to ascend to a position even higher than Qixi Protector General, so he colludes with a prince of the imperial clan. Wait a moment. When Zhangqiu Jianxiong rose from Anan Protector General to Minister of War, this must have provoked him. No, it's not just that. I wasn't there in the last life, so there was no battle of the Triangular Gap. But now that Fuming Lingcha's taken credit for that battle, his ambition is even greater, which makes it even harder for him to restrain himself. Wang Chong's mind was buzzing with thought. He was almost completely confident that Fuming Lingcha was dispatching his trusted aide to the capital to deliver the expression of fealty. He truly is a cunning one. Wang Chong mentally sighed. Very few people knew about the relationship between Fuming Lingcha and that prince, and at least right now this was still a secret. And yet in this situation, where everything seemed safe and sound, Fuming Lingcha had still sent 5 to 7 of his trusted subordinates to act as decoys. Such caution truly made one stand at attention. Even though Fuming Lingcha had no idea that Wang Chong knew his secret, his natural sense of caution made him incredibly difficult to deal with. Time was short, and Wang Chong quickly came back to his senses. Su Kai, bring some people with you and chase them down. In addition, send some people to run ahead to Sand Pass. The terrain around Sand Pass means that anyone who wants to travel from Qixi to the capital has to pass through it. But once they get through Sand Pass, they could travel down numerous roads and will lose track of them. Yes, Lord Marquis. Knowing that time was short, Su Kai hurriedly bowed. Wang Chong turned to Xianxia and ordered, Xianxia, dispatch your eagle team. Horses are slower than eagles, and we need to keep watch over them from the air. Yes, Lord Marquis. Xianxia's reply was crisp and energetic. In addition, remember to not attract their notice, no matter what. Fuming Lingcha is extremely cautious and paranoid, and his subordinates are certain to have been influenced by this attitude to be the same. You can't make them suspicious, because if we miss this chance, there won't be a second time. Once Fuming Lingcha starts getting wary, all our efforts will be wasted. Wang Chong said all this with a dour expression. Fuming Lingcha had not been able to become Protector General through pure luck, and Wang Chong did not dare to be careless. If this opportunity were lost, he would never be able to remove Fuming Lingcha. Your subordinate understands, Su Kai and Xianxia declared as one. The two had grim faces, both sensing the magnitude of the situation. Wang Chong nodded. Remember, the person you're looking for has a black brand on his right wrist in the shape of the character for Jade. Okay, go. Wang Chong waved his hand, and soon after, horses rumbled out of the city of steel. Xianxia, Su Kai, and countless other people had left to carry out Wang Chong's orders. Lord Marquis, do you need me to go as well? With my speed, I can definitely catch up to them. A loud voice rang out at Wang Chong's ear. Li Sai's mountain of a figure took several steps forward and stopped behind Wang Chong. Li Sai had once set off from the capital alone and had exterminated the several thousand Black Dragon bandits. Dealing with Fuming Lingcha's subordinates would be as easy as flipping over his palm. No! Wang Chong waved his hand, his expression grave as he immediately rejected the idea. We still don't know which one of these people Fuming Lingcha's letter is on, or perhaps if he's used some sort of method to divide up the letter, passed it to a different group. and then eventually made it so that the letter is given to his trusted subordinates. Such a method has been seen before in previous dynasties. For such an important matter like this, Fuming Lingcha can't be incautious. At the Battle of the Triangular Gap on the Tibetan Plateau, Fuming Lingcha already began to pay attention to you. Moreover, your body is too large. The moment you leave the City of Steel, someone will quickly spot you, and we would just end up giving Fuming Lingcha an advance warning. At that point, the mission would probably fail. Li Sai was momentarily dazed and speechless. Everything had its advantages and disadvantages, and even though he was nigh invincible in battle, he was apparently somewhat useless in this endeavor, a conclusion he had never expected. Enough. I have my ideas on how to settle this matter. It's not something that can be solved with strength. Neither you nor I can appear at this juncture. We can only leave everything to Zhang Ke and Su Kai, Wang Chong said. Hurry. Follow the mastiffs. Don't get lost. If one looked down from the sky, they would see a winding road, a jade belt that connected Chishi to the capital. A trail of dust was currently rising from this path as several dozen warhorses galloped toward the capital. In front of this pack of horsemen were 5 muscular and pitch-black mastiffs. The mastiffs were moving at speeds faster than even the horses, and as they howled and pursued, their noses were constantly sniffing at the sky. But these 5 mastiffs that had been running in the same direction quickly began to branch off. "Milord, look over there." A horseman pulled on his reins and stopped. In front of them, the 5 black mastiffs had begun to run and bark in 5 different directions. At this sight, Su Kai instantly frowned. "Milord, what do we do?" The soldiers all looked at Su Kai. Those 5 trusted aides of Fuming Lingcha had clearly parted ways and headed in separate directions, so if they wanted to follow, they would have to do the same. "Have you sent news of the other 2 back to Lord Marquis?" Su Kai asked without turning his head. Replying to Milord, "Messenger birds have already been sent back with the news," the scout reported, half kneeling. Lord Marquis should already know that another 2 of Fuming Lingcha's trusted subordinates did not leave Chishi after the evening meal, but instead headed in the direction of the Tibetan plateau. "Very good. All we need to do now is chase down these 5 others. Do you remember what I said to you all before we set out?" Su Kai asked. "Yes. Regardless of the measure we employ, we must not attract the attention of Fuming Lingcha or his men," the scout sternly said. "It's fine as long as you remember. Lord Marquis has placed a great deal of emphasis on this. All right, do as we planned. Remember, even if you have to fail, you cannot make them doubtful or wary." With this final warning, Su Kai waved his hand. The 30-some cavalry immediately split into 5 different groups, stirring up clouds of dust as they galloped away. Countless merchants traveled this road in both directions. At noon, the clinking of bells filled the air as a long caravan train slowly proceeded toward the capital. These Arab merchants with their thick beards and blue eyes led their camels forward as they heartily laughed. Nearby was a Hu merchant, wrapped in thick robes and maintaining a distance of 4 feet from the Arabs. As he advanced, he warily observed his surroundings. It seemed strange for Hu and Arab merchants to mingle, but on the western roads, this was an extremely commonplace sight. Simply too many bandits plagued the roads to the west, so the merchants naturally had to take care of each other. "Ah! Save me! Save me!" Suddenly, a shout came from the rear, causing the Arab merchants to turn their heads and see what was happening. What they saw was a filthy child of 7 or 8, his feet bare and his clothes ragged. This child was running toward them while constantly turning his head to fearfully look behind him. "Little bastard! To dare steal our Lord's possessions! You're just asking for trouble. You still dare to run. I'd like to see how far you can get. If I catch you, I'll flay the skin off your flesh." Behind the child, a burly man with a vicious and savage face was riding a horse in pursuit, cracking his whip. "It wasn't me. I didn't steal anything. It was your lord that broke it himself. Why do you have to blame me and say that I stole it?" The child appeared chagrined as he pleaded his case. The surrounding merchants broke out into laughter. In the western regions, only strength, not reason, held any sway. It was obvious that this child had offended some wealthy merchant or run into him when his mood was poor, thus becoming the unlucky vent for his anger. If everything went as expected, once this child was captured, he would have to suffer a vicious beating. As expected, that burly man was wholeheartedly focused on his cursing and shouting, so the merchants paid him little mind. The child finally panicked, accidentally running into that Hu merchant. "Out of my way!" The Hu merchant furiously pushed the child to the ground with a palm. The child, so unexpectedly pushed to the ground, appeared a little angry, but when he saw the savage and fiendish look on the Hu merchant's face, he immediately got up and fled. A while later, in a forest, "How was it? You didn't make him suspicious, right?" the vicious and burly man asked at the child. "No, he didn't even glance at me." The child shook his head. Then did you see a symbol on his hand?" the burly man said. The child shook his head. On another road, rumble. There was a massive boom as a carriage heedlessly passed by, knocking over several carriages before eventually crashing into the large black carriage at the very front, so badly damaging the carriage that even a wheel was sent flying. "Damn it, you bastards! Do none of you have eyes? Do you not even see what's on the road?" Ahu immediately jumped out of the carriage, his entire body boiling with anger. Sorry. The horse got out of control. We'll definitely compensate you for the losses. Definitely." A middle-aged merchant jumped out of the carriage that had caused the accident and immediately began to speak about compensation. A while later, two stalwart men met up on the side of the road. "Tell Lord Marquis that this road was also the wrong one. The person Lord Marquis wanted us to find is not this one. His hand does not bear the black jade symbol." Flap flap. A carrier pigeon took off into the air. Hiya! On the third road, 10 some horsemen were whipping the horses into a gallop. These people were traveling at maximum speed, and riding together, they stirred up a massive gale on the road. Whoosh! They galloped past a Hu merchant, the fierce winds causing the merchant's sleeves to flap about. No one noticed that as the outermost of the horsemen galloped by, he turned his head to shoot a glance at the Hu merchant. But after just a glimpse, he turned his head back around, his movements so swift that one might think it was just an illusion. Not there. Several hundred zhang in front of the Hu merchant, the other horseman had turned to the outermost one. No, this one was also wrong. The horseman knew what his comrades wanted, but he could only spread apart his hands and shake his head. As one piece of news returned to the city of steel after another, Wang Chong and his subordinates were all focused on the miniature model of Qixi in front of them. 1, 2, 3. Two of Fuming Lingcha's trusted aides headed to the Tibetan plateau, most likely on a task related to the base we set up at the Triangular Gap. As for the other 5, 3 have been eliminated, leaving only 2. That item must be with one of them. Wang Chong had a hand propped under his chin, while his other hand was unconsciously tapping its fingers against the table. Chang Sanyuan, any news from Zhang Ke? Wang Chong said. He never liked to place his hopes on a single person or group. Fuming Lingcha was not someone to be underestimated, and the tens of thousands of soldiers at Talas and the survival of the Great Tang were on the line. Lord Marquis, everything is under our control. Zhang Ke's rock eagles are currently tracking the enemy, Chang Sanyuan deferentially said. Wang Chong was placing a never-before-seen amount of focus on this matter, causing everyone else to turn grim and cautious. Zhang Ke was maintaining a constant line of communications with the City of Steel. Every 5 minutes, one bird would arrive and one bird would leave. As Old Eagle's disciple of many years, Zhang Ke was an extremely experienced trainer of birds. In his several months in the western regions, he had used his unique advantage to buy and train several hundred rock eagles. 60 to 70 were already up to the standard, and the rest of the rock eagles were still in training. These rock eagles were the foundation of Zhang Ke's eagle team, and the rock eagle perched on Zhang Ke's shoulder had become the king of this eagle team. At this moment, this large number of eagles was playing a critical role, constantly feeding information back to the City of Steel. Tell Zhang Ke to not let his guard down. In addition, notify Su Kai to continue his investigation. We need to find the man with the black jade tattoo on his arm. The item we're seeking will definitely be on him. Wang Chong propped both hands on the model of Qixi as he gave orders. The truth was gradually beginning to emerge. Only 2 people were left. For a moment, the room was quiet, everyone taking a breather as they waited for Su Kai's final report. But things did not develop in the way they expected. Reporting. Around an hour later, a scout rushed into the room in a panic. Lord Su has sent back word. The last 2 targets suddenly began to turn back. Lord Su asks what he should do next. Should we continue the operation? What? The report from the scout was tantamount to a boulder being thrown into the room, instantly causing massive waves to toss and turn in the minds of everyone present. Even Wang Chong and Li Sai were flabbergasted by this news, and the seated Wang Chong leapt to his feet. How could it be like this? Weren't they heading to the capital? Why would they go back? Returning means that without our even needing to eliminate them, they eliminated themselves. But then all 5 of them are eliminated. What's going on here? Lord Marquis, I recommend that Su Kai still investigate them. This news had swept through their minds like a whirlwind, completely upsetting the tempo. No one had predicted that their last 2 targets would decide to return. And yet this wasn't even the most surprising news they would hear today. Reporting. At this moment, another scout charged into the room. Lord Marquis, Lord Xianxia has sent back word that the 3 targets originally eliminated have begun to hurry their advance. He asks from Lord Marquis whether he should follow them. Buzz. The room that had been buzzing with chatter just moments ago instantly went silent. Everyone stared at Wang Chong, their shock clearly written on their faces. This matter was full of twists and turns. Those that had been suspicious were suddenly not, and those that weren't suspicious were suddenly back to being suspicious. Everyone felt helpless and confused. What should they do next? A clear and open situation had transformed into a befuddling riddle, a thick fog wrapping around them. How could it be like this? Wang Chong was even more unsettled than his subordinates. Fuming Lingcha's emissary should have a black tattoo of the character on his wrist. Those 3 didn't have one, so they could be eliminated, and the other 2 had gone off to the plateau, followed by Xianxia's birds, so they could also be eliminated. Only those 2 people had been left. He had believed that he just needed to find that person with the tattoo on their wrist to settle it all. A simple affair that should have gone off without a hitch. Where had the problem been? Why had those 2 suddenly begun to head back? Could it be? Am I wrong? At this moment, Wang Chong's face was grim and his mind was a hive of activity. This situation was different from what he had predicted, so he had to find out where the discrepancy was. Lord Marquis Su Kai is still waiting. Those 2 will soon return to Qixi. Should we continue to investigate them? Someone softly said to Wang Chong. Wang Chong said nothing, continuing to think. But this incident was still growing more and more complicated. A little while later, another panicked scout entered the room. Reporting. Lord Marquis, it's bad. Lord Zhang has sent back word that one of the 3 targets vanished. We've lost the trail. If the people in the room had still been able to maintain their composure from the previous news, they immediately panicked now. Fuming Lingcha and the Marquis had clashed quite a few times, and he had even been willing to use the Tibetans. He was truly someone willing to go to every extreme to deal with Wang Chong. If they could not seize this chance and topple Fuming Lingcha, they couldn't bear to imagine what life would be like in the City of Steel. Although they didn't know why such a thing had happened, they had no doubt that the vanished target was the true holder of Fuming Lingcha's important message. Lord Marquis, it's too late. Why don't we seize them and search their belongings? We'll definitely be able to find that person. That's right, Lord Marquis. The missing person must be the true target. We were tricked by Fuming Lingcha. Lord Marquis, let's go after them. Lord Marquis, let me go. Let me. Everyone felt an intense urgency. Time was quickly passing, and if they didn't find that missing person, they would definitely face complete failure. Wait a moment. Just when all of them were agitated, each of them volunteering to search for that person, a cold voice rumbled like a peal of thunder within the room. Without my order, no one is permitted to move. Wang Chong's order settled the matter, his firm resolve immediately pulling the officers back to earth. Everyone, do not act without permission. Comply with Lord Marquis's orders. Li Sai scanned the room before turning back around and striding to Wang Chong's side. Lord Marquis, if necessary, I can move at any time. Although I don't know where he is, as long as I'm diligent, I believe that I can find him. Li Sai spoke these words so softly that only he and Wang Chong could hear them. Although he had no idea what was going on, there was a high chance that Wang Chong had made an error in judgment, though no one present was willing to mention it. It's not right. Wang Chong shook his head as if he hadn't heard Li Sai. His expression was lacking any of its usual confidence, grim and stern. This matter can't possibly be that simple. Countless thoughts were working through his mind, the memories from that event of his past floating before his eyes. Fuming Lingcha didn't know of his existence. To be more precise, Fuming Lingcha had no idea that Wang Chong knew of the secretive collusion he had with that prince. There were no secret countermeasures being enacted specifically against him. This was the prerequisite which allowed Wang Chong to form the plan to remove him. In addition, the matter at the center of the Shuiyang Palace incident was of such importance that Fuming Lingcha would never let a messenger bird carry the message. It's too important for that. Fuming Lingcha would definitely send one of his trusted aides. Thus, that crucial letter tying Fuming Lingcha to one of the princes must be on one of those 5 subordinates. Wang Chong continued to silently ponder. In other words, Fuming Lingcha has no reason for such complicated arrangements, not unless he noticed something. This thought was like a bolt of lightning cleaving apart the curtain of the night. Trembling, Wang Chong shouted, "Chang Sanyuan, ask Xianxia again if he noticed anything else strange. I want to know all the details. Anything suspicious. Tell me everything." Wang Chong's sudden bark and his grave complexion made all the officers realize that he had discovered something. Yes, Chang Sanyuan left without another word. Xianxia's reply quickly arrived. "My lord," Xianxia said that nothing strange happened. "Ask again." "My lord, there truly was nothing abnormal." "Ask again." "My lord," Xianxia has replied that other than seeing several carrier pigeons while following the 3 targets, he truly didn't notice anything strange. That matter didn't seem very important. So Xianxia put it aside and didn't report it. Buzz. The other officers hadn't yet realized the importance of this news, but Wang Chong's pupils constricted as if he had been stabbed by a needle. "Order Xianxia to withdraw all his birds. They should remain grounded, and any pursuit is forbidden. Inform Su Kai to immediately withdraw all his soldiers. In addition, attempts to sound out the 2 targets currently returning are forbidden, as is any pursuit. Without my order, no one is permitted to make the slightest move." With these final words, Wang Chong fiercely clenched his fists. He had greatly underestimated Fuming Lingcha. This bastard was even more cautious than he had imagined. The critical moment was coming, and if Fuming Lingcha felt the smallest doubt, all of Wang Chong's efforts would be for nothing, gone with the wind. "Lord Marquis, what did you realize?" Li Sai whispered. Wang Chong's 2 orders were simply inexplicable. One of the 3 targets had vanished, and the 2 other targets were picking up the pace, yet Wang Chong had ordered that everyone should withdraw, not follow. All the officers were left scratching their heads, but Wang Chong's authority was supreme in the City of Steel, so no one except Li Sai dared to question his decision. "Lord Marquis, did Fuming Lingcha notice?" Wang Chong nodded. "We only cared about determining which of the targets was the true one, but we forgot about how prudent Fuming Lingcha was being. It's not important that we can't find that man with the black tattoo of the jade character on his right wrist. The most important thing is to allay Fuming Lingcha's worries." "But how did Fuming Lingcha notice us?" "We were very careful to not make anything seem unnatural," Li Sai said. His brow creased. All the methods for sounding out the targets had been decided in advance, after careful thought and consensus. It was only after they were sure that these methods were natural and not liable to stir any doubts that they decided on them. Li Sai didn't understand how they had aroused Fuming Lingcha's suspicion. "You don't understand." Wang Chong gave a deep sigh. Not even Li Sai understood the reason, so he held no hope for the others. If Fuming Lingcha hadn't run into Wang Chong, his plan would succeed 8 or 9 times out of 10. At present, we've used 3 methods: a young beggar, a carriage crash, and a large group of cavalry. The one most liable to arouse suspicion was the carriage crash, but we first had the carriage crash into other carriages before accidentally hitting the target's carriage, minimizing the chance the target would get suspicious. Purely on its own, this wouldn't be anything to worry about, but if these incidents were to all crop up around the same time, if you were in Fuming Lingcha's position, wouldn't you also get suspicious? This? Li Sai was left stunned. And not only him. Everyone else in the room was dumbfounded by Wang Chong's words. True, every incident had been played out to perfection, but when added together, their performance had been anything but. But these 5 targets were all very far from Qixi. How did Fuming Lingcha know so quickly? The moment the question left Li Sai's mouth, he realized, and his voice began to dwindle away. You understand now? Wang Chong gave Li Sai a profound glance, knowing that he had understood the crux of the matter. Those carrier pigeons that Zhang Ke thought nothing of were the key to all this. Fuming Lingcha, that wily fox, is far more difficult to deal with than we imagined. Far more cunning and crafty. If my guess is right, although he didn't know of our existence, he gave each of his subordinates a carrier pigeon so that they could inform him as soon as anything strange happened. Zhang Ke was too careless. I'm guessing that after those targets were inspected by our people, they found a secluded place to release their carrier pigeons. Zhang Ke was tricked. In the end, Wang Chong couldn't help but sigh. Zhang Ke was truly quite an outstanding individual, but he hadn't taken into account who his opponent was. Fuming Lingcha was a protector general with an incredibly shrewd mind. Even Wang Chong had to devote 100% of his focus when dealing with him, much less Zhang Ke. Right now, we're not dealing with those 5 people on the road, but Fuming Lingcha in the distant Qixi Protectorate headquarters. This period is critical. If we can't make Fuming Lingcha lower his guard, then our next move is meaningless, because our chances of success are 0, Wang Chong said. This operation was no longer a simple sounding out of the 5 targets for the one with the tattoo. It had gradually morphed into a contest with Fuming Lingcha, a contest that involved no flashing blades and swords, no fire or smoke. Yet the result of this contest would decide the future structure of Qixi, the fate of an imperial great general, the fate of himself, and the fate of Anxi Protector General Gao Xianji and his tens of thousands of elites. The room was quiet as Wang Chong's orders were passed on. Lord Marquis, Zhang Ke has finished his withdrawal. Lord Marquis, Su Kai has pulled back all his troops. 2 messenger birds flew into the city of steel, delivering the confirmation that Wang Chong's words had been fully carried out. At this time, the people in the room did not even dare to breathe too loudly. If Wang Chong's judgment was wrong, they would quickly lose sight of the targets and miss out on this opportunity. If Wang Chong's judgment was correct, then the situation was even more serious, as it meant that they had failed the mission before even finishing the first phase. The air was fraught with tension, so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Time slowly passed as they waited. Lord Marquis, we've lost track of all 3 targets. We no longer know where they've gone. This report quickly arrived. Although they couldn't follow or probe the targets, they would dispatch a single person to observe them at set intervals, but even this group had lost trace of those 3. The air in the room instantly became stifling. No one said anything, but all of them looked out of the corners of their eyes at Wang Chong. There's no need to rush. Wait! Wang Chong closed his eyes and slightly leaned back. His expression was cold and unpanicked. Abnormal events always had a culprit, and so he could be sure that Fuming Lingcha was waiting for any sign of movement from his side. But no matter what Fuming Lingcha did, his tricks were useless against Wang Chong. All that mattered now was which of them had the most patience. This was a contest between him and Fuming Lingcha. Time continued to amble forward. 7 minutes. 15 minutes. 30 minutes. 1 hour. Everyone in the room remained silent, the mood slowly turning more oppressive. None of them doubted Wang Chong's decisions. After all, Wang Chong had amply proved his wisdom and foresight many times already. And yet, from the current situation, it appeared that this time Wang Chong might have been wrong. Lord Marquis, Even Chang Sanyuan and Su Shixian couldn't help but look at Wang Chong. No one believed that Wang Chong had done anything terribly wrong in this situation, as everyone would make mistakes. But the consequences of this matter weren't so simple. Given the importance with which Wang Chong regarded this matter, they all believed that they might have lost the final chance to deal with Fuming Lingcha. Starting from now, whether in Qixi or in Wuxiang, Wang Chong would forever be restrained and restricted by Fuming Lingcha. As the morale dropped in this tense room, none of them knew that, in another place, the air was even more solemn and fraught with tension. "Milord, our people are all in position, but none of them have noticed anything strange." In the main hall of the Qixi Protectorate, a Hu general bowed as he gave his report to Fuming Lingcha. Across from him, the fully armored Fuming Lingcha was seated imposingly on his throne that symbolized the authority of the Qixi Protector General. His body exuding a majestic aura, his eyes shut. Nobody could tell what thoughts were running through that unmoving figure. "Look again," Fuming Lingcha sternly said. This was already the third time he had given exactly this order, but none of the generals around him dared to question him. The Hu general quickly left with the order. 15 minutes later, he returned. "Milord, Qi Boer and the others have already picked up speed, but they still haven't noticed anyone following them. Look again, Milord. They have already investigated 3 times and still haven't noticed anything. Look again, Milord. Qi Boer and the others are about to reach Sandpass, but they still have not noticed anything. Look again, Milord. Qi Boer has not noticed anyone within 60 kilometers. Look again, Milord. Qi Boer and Ilaluo have arrived at Sandpass. Qi Boer has inquired via carrier pigeon whether he should continue." With this final question, the hall seemed to brighten as Fuming Lingcha suddenly opened his eyes. Everyone around him was silent and still as they awaited Fuming Lingcha's decision. "What's going on? Was my intuition off?" Fuming Lingcha's eyes flickered, and for the first time, a hint of hesitation appeared on his face. Fuming Lingcha had always been cautious, even more so when matters involved that prince in the court. Thus, for this operation, Fuming Lingcha had dispatched 5 people to the capital. If one of them encountered any problems, Fuming Lingcha would instinctively feel uneasy, much less 2 of them. A young beggar had run into one of them, while the other's carriage had been struck by a runaway carriage. These 2 incidents were absolutely normal on the Silk Road, but Fuming Lingcha's innate caution was triggered nonetheless. Consequently, he had summoned back 2 of his subordinates while telling the other 3 to pick up speed. If someone really was following them, Fuming Lingcha was confident that these actions would leave his mysterious opponent panicked and confused. As long as this opponent picked up speed to follow his men, Fuming Lingcha's men stationed on the roads would notice. If his speculations were confirmed, Fuming Lingcha would immediately have the letter destroyed. It was better to be safe than sorry, and though Fuming Lingcha didn't believe that anyone knew about his secret correspondence with that prince, Fuming Lingcha didn't dare to take any risks. After all, border great generals entering the War of the Princes had always been a massive taboo. Was I wrong? Were those 2 incidents really just accidents? Fuming Lingcha appeared unmoved, but internally he was, for the first time, beginning to doubt his decision. Much time had passed, and his men, wearing various disguises, had surveyed the area quite a few times, but they had found nothing. If someone really had been following his subordinates, they should have left at least a few clues. At the very least, there should have been some tracks in a range of 60 kilometers. As Fuming Lingcha continued to think, time seemed to stop. Meanwhile, Wang Chong was also thinking in silence. For some reason, he felt like he was lacking something. "Chang Sanyuan, is that cavalryman who crashed the carriage still there?" Wang Chong suddenly asked. This question instantly grabbed the focus of everyone present. "He is," Chang Sanyuan said without a thought. "Tell Su Kai to dispatch that cavalryman back to Qixi to have the carriage repaired. They have to use the official road, and they must be seen by the Hu merchants." The officers were all baffled by the order, but seeing Wang Chong's composed expression, none of them dared to object. "Yes." Chang Sanyuan paused for a moment before quickly leaving with the order. With Chang Sanyuan's departure, The room fell back into its silent and dejected mood. Not at all worried, Wang Chong only smiled. Fuming Lingcha, let's see what you do next. With this thought, Wang Chong settled back down to wait. Reporting. Within the Qixi Protectorate headquarters, a scout strode into the main hall and kneeled. "Milord, there's a report from Qixi that the person who crashed into Qi Boer's carriage has come back and is currently down in the marketplace, grumbling and cursing as he has the carriage repaired." What? This news made Fuming Lingcha shiver as he stood up from his throne. Is this news confirmed? Milord, our people have confirmed this news 3 times. In addition, our people have made inquiries and have found nothing wrong with that person's identity. He's just a small-time merchant who accidentally crashed his carriage into Qi Boer's carriage, and he's already paid compensation, the kneeling scout earnestly said. Standing in the hall, Fuming Lingcha continued to waver and hesitate. Seeing that Fuming Lingcha was saying nothing, the other people in the hall endeavored to make as little noise as possible. After some time, Fuming Lingcha's eyes finally turned hard. He had made a decision. Pass on my order. Call back Qi Boer and Ilaluo from Sandpass. In addition, have Chifu Li and the others continue on the original route. Yes. With this ringing order, everything was settled. Fuming Lingcha exhaled and plopped back down onto his throne. In Wuxiang's city of steel, everyone was still waiting in silence. They had lost contact with all 5 targets, and their morale was at its nadir, though no one was willing to come out and say it. Yet at this very moment the completely unexpected occurred. Reporting. A scout rushed into the hall. Lord Marquis, we've received news that the last 2 targets are not returning to Qixi. Our forces have not seen any sign that they're coming back. Ah! How could that be? Given the time that's passed, they should already be back. That shouldn't be. Has the situation changed? What's going on here? This news sent shockwaves through the gathered officers, and all of them were struck dumb. Even the slowest of them could sense that something wasn't right. Quite a few hours had passed since those targets had begun to make their way back, and logically speaking, they should have arrived or been about to arrive at Qixi. That they had still not returned could only mean one thing. They had never planned to return to Qixi in the first place. And things were only just getting started. Reporting. Lord Marquis, Xianxia has sent a report that the 3 missing targets have reappeared and are currently beginning to return to Qixi. Lord Zhang requests orders on what he should do next. Reporting. Lord Marquis, Su Kai has sent a report that those 2 targets that we didn't inspect who turned back have suddenly reappeared on the road. Lord Su requests orders on what he should do next. These 2 pieces combined left all the officers in a daze. The twists and turns had happened far too quickly, and no one knew what was happening or why it was happening. Ha ha ha! Wang Chong suddenly began to laugh, a smile finally appearing on his face. As expected, Fuming Lingcha, you took the bait. Although no one else in the hall had understood what was going on, Wang Chong knew that he had guessed right, bet right, and done right. Fuming Lingcha's actions of having 3 of his men speed up and the other 2 go back was truly an attempt to lure his opponent out. But in this contest, he had still lost. When evildoers rise 1 foot, the righteous rise 1 zhang. Fuming Lingcha. In the end, you still couldn't restrain yourself. Wang Chong laughed. He could be almost certain that ordering Su Kai to send back the horseman who had crashed the carriage had played a critical role. Otherwise, there was no explaining how Fuming Lingcha had so quickly decided to resume his plan after the order had been carried out. Tell Su Kai and Zhang Ke to go according to the original plan. Follow those 2 targets, but until they reach the point that they originally turned around, they shouldn't be alarmed. As for the other 3, since they've already turned around, there's no need to worry about them, Wang Chong declared, his orders immediately rousing his men to life. Your subordinate understands. The scout quickly left. All the officers in the room had rather ashamed expressions. It was now very obvious that Wang Chong's judgment had been correct. If they had pursued those missing targets, they would have failed and attracted Fuming Lingcha's attention. When they thought about how they had been so certain that Wang Chong was wrong just moments ago, they felt even more embarrassed. Wang Chong waved his hands and indifferently said, "Ha ha! It's fine. There's no need to worry about such minor trifles. Get moving. In an exchange with a crafty individual like Fuming Lingcha, even Wang Chong, with all his future knowledge, had to commit all his focus, much less his subordinates. This sort of performance was very normal. It was still not the time for them to participate in contests of this level. With this, everything is settled. Wang Chong looked out the door. It seemed like the dark clouds over the city of steel were finally dispersing, and he felt a sense of relief washing over him. Su Kai quickly sent back news that they had found the man with the black tattoo on his right wrist. It had been one of the two people they had been tracking, and both Su Kai's men and Zhang Kei's rock eagles were currently following him. But there was still one last problem. Wang Chong had no way of confirming whether the letter was in that person's hands or Fuming Lingcha had sent the letter separately. Lord Marquis, since we've confirmed the target, we could just capture both of them at the same time, Chang Sanyuan proposed. That letter will definitely be with one of them. That's not necessary. Fuming Lingcha has definitely sent his trusted subordinates, so we just need to confirm that it's these two. There's no point in stirring Fuming Lingcha's wariness for a minor matter like this. In addition, both Wuxiang and Sanpass are too close to Qixi. We can't guarantee that Fuming Lingcha has no other tricks up his sleeve to ensure that the letter is transported safely. Careless movements are far too dangerous, and Fuming Lingcha might react excessively, Wang Chong said, but he kept a few reasons unsaid. This matter involved not just Fuming Lingcha, but that prince in the capital. A problem in Qixi that could stir that prince's doubts would also lead to a failure in this matter. As was said many times, removing an imperial great general like Fuming Lingcha was no simple task. Li Sai, write a letter to King Song with a drawing of the target. Let him handle what comes next. Yes, this general will go. That vigorous voice came from behind him, and then Li Sai left, his armor clattering. Flap flap. A few moments later, a carrier pigeon flew off toward the capital. With everything taken care of, Wang Chong felt like he had been relieved of a great burden. Reporting. Another scout strode into the room, bringing with him a gust of wind. Lord Marquis, a lady called Su Qichin outside has requested a meeting with you. She says that she is your friend. What? So fast? Wang Chong's eyes brightened in joy. As the scout looked on in astonishment, he flew out the door. Buildings stood tall in the city of steel, and the place was bustling with activity. This barren land was gradually taking shape into a proper city, undergoing a complete transformation. Although Fuming Lingcha had taken the credit for the Battle of the Triangular Gap, those Scions who mingled with Wang Chong understood what had really happened. This major victory had provided a massive boost to construction within the city. Many of the great clans now had incredible faith in the safety and defenses of the City of Steel. If not even this army that could slaughter the brave and fierce Tibetans was strong enough, then there was probably no force in the world that would ever be strong enough. Many clans in the capital had increased their investment, putting in 7 or 8 times the initial amount, some of them even 10 times. This massive amount of capital bolstered the construction speed of the City of Steel to new heights, and the difference from before was like that between night and day. Wang Chong strode past ornate buildings, gardens, ponds, and transplanted flowers. Finally, at the open city gates, he saw that familiar figure. She was wearing a white dress, her pitch-black hair falling like a waterfall down to her waist. She had her side facing him as she stood by the gate, her exquisite curves clear. Next to her, an orderly stream of carriages loaded with goods was flowing through the gate. As she oversaw the process, her every movement was calm and confident, and she seemed like a beautiful fairy who had descended to the mortal world. The barren and remote land of Wuxiang seemed to become fresher and more beautiful at her presence, as if it had transformed into a garden of blooming flowers. Su Qichin. Wang Chong inwardly rejoiced, his excited voice ringing through the City of Steel. That figure in the distance seemed just a tiny bit strange, but also wholly familiar. After 3 months, Su Qichin had become even more moving, and Wang Chong couldn't help but smile at the thought. Su Qichin's body trembled as she heard the voice, and she subconsciously turned her head. At that moment, the picturesque landscape of her face seemed to be illuminated by the light of the spring sun, bathed in the cool breeze. This smile was so dazzlingly beautiful that Wang Chong stopped in a daze. Wang Chong! Su Qichin strode forward, the joy on her face evident. This is the city of steel you spoke of? It's even grander than you described in your letters. Su Qichin had a smile on her lips, and she acted like she had already spent some time in the city of steel. Her eyes glimmered with admiration as she looked around at the city towering around her. Although she had imagined what this city would look like, seeing it for herself made Su Qichin realize that it was far more stunning than she had expected. When she thought about how all this was Wang Chong's handiwork, she couldn't help but admire him even more. That youth who had defeated her in chess within Deflecting Blade Manor was becoming more and more dazzling, more and more handsome. Nothing was impossible in his hands, and everything was easy. There seemed to be nothing in the world that he couldn't do. It truly is grand, but there's still some grandeur that only you can bring to reality. Let's go. I'll take you on a tour. In addition, you must be tired from your long journey. In a while, I'll have someone arrange your living quarters, Wang Chong said. He had brought Su Qichin from the capital to Wuxiang for the sake of handling the affairs of the western regions. Any city that was built up from nothing had 1,000 things that needed to be done, and the many facets of building up a fief were not something that Wang Chong could handle alone. Of those at Wang Chong's side, only Su Qichin had this kind of ability. She was capable of handling a diverse array of tasks in an orderly and appropriate fashion. More importantly, battles were not simply contests of soldiers, but also logistics. For the future Battle of Talas, Wang Chong couldn't possibly divide his attention on so many tasks. He needed someone to help him bear some of the burden and handle the logistics. Su Qichin gave a faint smile as she followed Wang Chong. The two standing side by side were a young and beautiful couple, attracting countless gazes in the city of steel. Su Qichin followed Wang Chong, a smile on her face as she curiously viewed her surroundings, completely unaware that she and Wang Chong had become the center of attention. Time slowly passed, and while Wang Chong was handling the affairs of his city of steel, on another battlefront, Zhao Jingdian was handling the matters related to the cement road. Hey! Ha! As signals were called out, an unprecedented gray-white road of cement was being built from the capital to the western regions, like an awakening dragon extending its body along the vast earth. Countless great clans were pouring an endless flood of manpower and resources into the cement road. On the road to the western regions, several dozen li of roads were built every day, sometimes even several hundred. This flat, smooth, and tough road made everyone sigh in praise. The sight of this unprecedented road system taking shape and rapidly extending under their efforts filled all the participants with joy and excitement. The Silk Road was the road of gold, the most famous road in the world. The people who traveled east and west along this road were the most famous and wealthiest of merchants, trading jewels, agate, spices. If this road were completed, all of them could expect to see an enormous profit. Rumble. Rolling wheels could be heard. While the thousands of workers were at work, a special carriage draped in blue-green curtains traveled along the cement road, extremely eye-catching and obvious. But none of the workers paid this any attention. After all the time they had labored over this road, these workers were all used to the presence of this carriage. It would set out from the capital every morning, traveling along the newly built road. At noon, it would start its journey back. This routine had repeated day after day. Within the spacious carriage, a fawning voice cautiously asked, "Lord Zhao, how is it? Are you satisfied?" While all the laborers were busy with their duties, there were few people to notice a corner of the curtains being raised and two pairs of eyes silently gazing out. Zhao Jingdian gave a small grunt of approval as he continued to watch those workers pour water again and again on the new cement road. The cement road could not simply be built and then just left to its own devices. After construction, it needed to be watered. Wang Chong had repeatedly emphasized this point in his letters, so Zhao Jingdian had viewed it with similar importance. Haha! It's fine as long as my lord is satisfied. Our alliance is currently managing everything and will do its utmost to assist Lord Marquis in extending the cement road from the capital to Wuxiang. In addition, our clans also have stock in Wuxiang's city of steel, Did I use the word stock, right? So strange. In short, we're in the same boat as Lord Marquis, all on the same side. Lord Marquis's problems are our problems, yes indeed. Next to Zhao Jingdian was a somewhat sleazy-looking clan expert. He paused here, and then continued with a flattering expression. With regards to the construction of the road, can you try and change Lord Marquis's mind so that we can use the existing road to the western regions? This will save time and energy and be of benefit to everyone. Does my lord not agree? Zhao Jingdian's brow furrowed, and when he turned to this clan expert, his expression had chilled. Do I need to give you Lord Marquis's message again? No is no. This condition is not up for negotiation. Anyone who violates this point will be withdrawing themselves from the alliance. Everything regarding the western regions, including the cement road, will cease to have anything to do with that clan. Zhao Jingdian's gaze was as sharp as a sword, and the clan expert hurriedly lowered his head before those threatening eyes. The two were discussing a clause in the contract Wang Chong had made with the alliance of clans. All the cement roads would have to be new and could not be built upon the pre-existing Silk Road. This meant that the clan alliance would, besides the expenditure on lime, clay, aluminum or sand and stone, also have to spend a great deal of money on digging out new roads. From a commercial perspective, this was not beneficial to the clan alliance. Thus, wave after wave of representatives from the clan alliance had attempted to lobby Zhao Jingdian. There had been more than 20 attempts now, as Zhao Jingdian could not bother to keep count, and he had firmly refused each time. Zhao Jingdian had asked Wang Chong about this matter, and Wang Chong had been very frank as to the reason. The moment the cement road appeared, it would be a grandiose and unstoppable flood. Wang Chong fully expected that, with or without his approval, the cement roads would quickly become popular throughout the Great Tang, owing to the ease of traveling over them and the incredible weight they could bear. This meant that cement roads would appear all across the Great Tang, not just between the capital and the western regions. Wang Chong wanted to avoid having the clan alliance build cement roads over the original road network and then collect tolls from them. This would only incur the resentment of the common people and make this engineering project meant to benefit the entire country into one that only exploited the people. Such a result was contrary to Wang Chong's intent. Thus, Wang Chong would never agree to this proposal, and he would repeat his refusal as many times as necessary. No matter how much the clan alliance tried to lobby him, Zhao Jingdian would never agree. Lord Zhao, please forgive me. This one misspoke. The clan expert quickly attempted to change the subject. Zhao Jingdian didn't continue to needle the point, and moved on. At the current speed, how long will it take until the road reaches Wuxiang? This? Around 4 or 5 months. The expert's response was no longer very energetic. It was clear that Zhao Jingdian's reply was not the one he had hoped for, and his morale had been rather badly bruised. We don't have that long. This sort of progress is too slow. Zhao Jingdian frowned. This number was far larger than he had predicted. Tell the clan alliance that even though Young Master won't agree to using the original official roads to build the cement roads, if the road to Wuxiang is completed in 3 months, Young Master can give an additional 5% of the profits from the tolls to the alliance. If the road is finished in 2 months, Young Master will give the alliance an additional 10%. The dejected expert's eyes instantly brightened, and his face was quickly exuberant. Lord Zhao is speaking the truth? The expert asked with shining eyes. The contract between Wang Chong and the clan alliance was perpetual. All cement roads built in the Great Tang would be administered and bound according to the clauses of that contract. It might only be 5 or 10%, but the amount of wealth behind these measly numbers was nigh unimaginable. And even decades, centuries, perhaps even millennia later, this contract would still be effective. This was the true allure of this agreement between Wang Chong and the clan alliance. If Wang Chong could relinquish 10% of the profits for all time, the clan alliance would be chomping at the bit, willing to pay any price to extend the cement road to Wuxiang. In comparison to the massive profits they stood to gain, the losses they incurred would be vanishingly small. Rational analysis would make any great clan reach this same conclusion. Our young master's promises have always been worth their weight in gold. Has he ever gone back on his word? Zhao Jingdian indifferently replied. Wonderful. My lord, please wait a moment. I will return to the alliance to discuss this with the elders. The elders will definitely agree. The expert immediately pushed open the door to the carriage and jumped out, proceeding like a bolt of lightning to the headquarters of the clan alliance. Bang! Just as expected, Wang Chong's offer quickly stirred a massive wave within the clan alliance. No one had expected Wang Chong to relinquish such a large share of the profits, and none of them could resist the temptation. The clan alliance's reply was swift. Deal! With this new contract signed, the construction speed of the cement road accelerated, becoming almost frenzied. For the sake of those profits, the great clans sold off properties and businesses, pouring out all their money, even dispatching experts to oversee the work. In a flash, the construction speed shot up to several times the original speed. Time continued to fly by as the construction on the cement road continued. Meanwhile, in a place nearby, a tense atmosphere was slowly building up. How is the investigation going? As night began to fall, a luxurious carriage was parked on the side of the road, outside the southern gate of the capital. Next to the carriage was a man of some 40 years, his hands held behind his back, his body exuding a noble aura as he silently waited. People passed by and around him, but just by standing there, the middle-aged man was like a crane standing amongst chickens. Such was the demeanor of this middle-aged man that even the nobles of the capital would appear like fireflies attempting to flaunt their light in front of the bright moon. Replying to your highness, we have finished the investigation. On the Chishi side, a child called Xianxia was following them, but when it came to this side, Old Eagle took over the responsibilities. In addition, it is said that the child Xianxia is Old Eagle's disciple. To the left and right of King Song stood his old butler and Lu Ting. The old butler was bowed, his lips moving in an unhurried manner. In addition, we have just received word that the trusted subordinate Fuming Lingcha dispatched did not enter through the western gate, the gate most often used by the Hu merchants. Instead, he made a detour and entered through the southern gate.